Very good evening to you. You're live here on GH1 TV. This is News Tonight. I'm Natalie. Let's take a look at our top stories. Coming up tonight, the opposition MPP is set to petition the Chief Justice demanding a full investigation into the conduct of and removal of His Honour Joseph Yenuban Kunsong in relation to the Abronia and Baba Amando cases. Speaker of Parliament cautions MPs to live above reproach following the arrest and detention of a Sant'Erchim North MP in the Netherlands, describing the incident as regrettable.
No privilege or immunity supersedes the law. For purposes of emphasis, MPs are not immune from the law.
Also coming up tonight, the health minister says Ghana remains free of the Ebola virus despite the World Health Organization declaring the outbreak a public health emergency of international concern.
It is important to stress that presently the risk is low in Ghana, to assure everybody that the government is taking all the necessary measures to protect us all.
In business this evening, government reaffirms its commitment of retaining more value from Ghana's cocoa beans, assuring of a reset aimed at positioning the cocoa sector for long-term survival.
We are determined to move beyond exporting raw beans towards building greater local processing capacity and retaining more value within producing countries.
And later on the foreign front, protesters in the Democratic Republic of Congo have reportedly set an Ebola treatment center ablaze after authorities refused to release the bodies of relatives for burial. We've got the details of these stories and much more news here on News Tonight. Do stay with us. Let's get into the details here on News Tonight on GH1 TV, streaming live on Facebook and on X, that's at GH1 TV. The opposition NPP will tomorrow, Friday, 22nd of May 2026, petition the Chief Justice, Paul Bafo-Boni, calling for a full investigation into the conduct of His Honour Joseph Yenuban Kunsong, the infamous political judge in relation to the Abronia and Baba Amando cases. The petition will be formally submitted by the General Secretary of the NPP, Justin Kodia Frimpong, on behalf of the party. Abronia DC had been remanded by the Circuit Court for 2 weeks in connection with ongoing investigations into alleged misinformation and offensive public statements. The High Court in Accra granted the Bono Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Kwame Bafo, popularly known as Abronia DC, bail in the sum of 100,000 cedis with 2 sureties to be justified. The petition raises serious concerns regarding alleged misconduct, abuse of judicial discretion, and demonstrated incompetence in the handling of the said matters. Consequently, the party will respectfully request that the appropriate constitutional and disciplinary processes be triggered to investigate the judge's conduct and consider his removal from office. Now, do note that our news team attempted to reach and to engage with the lawyers of Abronia DC. However, they declined to speak with us. We'll certainly bring you more on that issue subsequently. A three-member panel of the Court of Appeal has unanimously ordered the Bank of Ghana to restore the operating license of GN Savings and Loans Company Limited with immediate effect. The decision of the second highest court of the land overturns both the Bank of Ghana's revocation orders and its subsequent affirmation by the High Court. On January 4, 2019, GN Bank Limited was reclassified as a savings and loans company and consequently renamed GN Savings and Loans Company Limited. 7 months later, on August 16, 2019, the Bank of Ghana, then under the leadership of Dr. Ernest Addison, revoked the operating license of GN Savings and Loans Company Limited and appointed Eric Nana Nipa as receiver as part of the banking sector cleanup exercise. On Thursday, May 21, 2026, the Court of Appeal panel of three unanimously held that the revocation of the company's license was unfair and unreasonable. Let's turn to some other issues this evening. The family of the late Charles Amisa has officially dragged the Attorney General and three major public hospitals to court over its tragic passing. This comes after an independent committee report exposed a horrific 118-minute referral loop that directly cost the 29-year-old engineer his life. The ACOSA committee explicitly concluded that Charles did not die from instant trauma, but rather died from a slow systemic failure of medical responsibility. There's more in this News Desk report.
29-year-old engineer Charles Amisa is dead, and his sister has now dragged the Attorney General and three major public hospitals to the Accra High Court. A forensic investigation conducted by the ACOSA committee exposed a shocking timeline of institutional neglect. The nightmare began at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, popularly known as RIDGE. Charles arrived in critical condition, needing urgent emergency stabilizing care. Instead of receiving immediate help, the family was turned away, rushed to the police hospital. He was refused entry based on a lack of physical space. Desperate to save his life, the ambulance made a frantic dash to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. By the time he was finally looked at, it was too late. Cumulative delay of 118 minutes directly resulted in irreversible clinical deterioration.
Death of Charles Amisa could have been avoided by medical intervention at the police hospital, the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, or Kolebu Teaching Hospital.
7 health professionals were cited for professional breaches and referred to the Medical and Dental Council. The writ has been filed. The state has been summoned, and a grieving sister is determined to ensure that her brother, Charles, is the very last casualty of a broken system.
So live here on News Tonight on GH1 TV. Health Minister Kwabena Minta Akando is urging the public to adhere to strict hand hygiene and vigilance as Ebola cases in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda surpass 600 with 139 deaths recorded. The address by the Health Minister comes after the WHO said a vaccine for the Bundibugyo strain of Ebola could take up to 9 months to develop.
Men and women. The Ministry of Health over the past 1 week has issued 2 publications on Ebola. Last week, WHO declared Ebola as a public health emergency of international concern. Ebola is a viral disease spread through direct contact with blood, body fluids, secretions, and contaminated surfaces or materials. People experiencing symptoms such as sudden fever, headache, muscle pain, vomiting, diarrhea, or unexplained bleeding should immediately report the nearest health facility. It is important to note that no cases have been recorded in West Africa, including our dear country, Ghana. However, it is said prevention is always better than cure. In that spirit, the following precautions must be adhered to. 1. Practice good hand hygiene. What this means is that we should wash our hands frequently with soap under running water or use hand sanitizers. 2. During mass gatherings, please also practice good hand hygiene, and event organizers should provide hand washing stations and hand sanitizers. Dear countrymen and women, it is important to stress that presently the risk is low in Ghana. I would like to use this opportunity to assure everybody that the government is taking all the necessary measures to protect us all.
Away from health issues, let's turn to education. Deputy Education Minister Clement Apak has underscored the critical role of technical and vocational education and training, TVET, in tackling unemployment and driving job creation across the country. He says that the government remains committed to strengthening the sector through the establishment of a dedicated TVET fund to support skills development and innovation. The Deputy Education Minister made these remarks while monitoring the ongoing TVET examinations in the capital.
TVET institutions in Accra during the ongoing final examinations for students in the technical and vocational sector. Deputy Education Minister Dr. Clement Apak reiterated government's commitment to expanding technical and vocational education and training as part of efforts to address youth unemployment and accelerate industrial growth. According to him, equipping young people with practical and employable skills remains key to creating sustainable jobs and reducing the country's dependence on white-collar employment.
So TVET is the way to go, and with that, we wouldn't be having unemployed graduates as a situation. Because whether you are a plumber, you are a mechanic, you are an auto mechanic, a fridge repairer, a steel bender, you have something to do. You can create and even employ others. This is why we want to encourage TVET.
Dr. Apak also reaffirmed government's resolve to establish a TVET fund to provide sustainable financing for technical and vocational institutions across the country.
Where we are looking at contributing at least 2% of our oil revenue to a dedicated fund to support TVET education. And there's a lot more that is happening in the TVET space. So the days where TVET was seen as an option for those who didn't have the needed competencies to pursue regular secondary education are over.
The Deputy Education Minister also commended the candidates and invigilators for their dedication and encouraged students to take advantage of opportunities within the TVET sector to build successful careers and contribute meaningfully to national development.
In some other stories this evening, young creatives are being cautioned against the use of pirated or free versions of Adobe software. Stakeholders warn that such platforms expose users to cyber threats and data breaches. Partner and account manager at Reddington, Ghana, Joseph Oduro, explained that many unauthorized platforms require users to upload sensitive files onto unverified servers, increasing the risk of hacking and unauthorized access. He gave the caution at the launch of Adobe's Creative Cloud Training (CCT) standard in Ghana.
creative economy gathers pace and presents new opportunities for jobs and growth, Adobe and Reddington Ghana are positioning the country as a hub for digital creativity and innovation. The launch of Adobe Creative Cloud for Teams standard, described as the first initiative of its kind in Africa, is expected to give businesses, agencies, and young creatives access to industry standard digital tools to improve productivity and compete globally. Speaking at the launch, partner and account manager at Reddington Ghana, Joseph Odro, noted that users can access the software suite at nearly 60% below the standard cost, making industry tools more accessible to creatives and reducing reliance on pirated software.
Spoke to them about pricing issues because we normally want free and perpetual licenses. They said, okay, then they can do something for us, which the prices too are very cool. So they are giving us all the products. That's the 20 plus Adobe products in the CCT. That's the standard. And the price is 60% half of the Pro and the higher versions. Because with this you have all the products for SMEs, and you can use from 2 users and then 9 users. So if you can't buy like for the 100 users, 50 users, you can buy from 2 to 9.
Pre-sales engineer at Reddington Ghana, Caleb Onzula, highlighted the program's collaboration tools and affordability as a major advantage for businesses, schools, and creatives.
It's collaboration. You want a tool that will allow you to collaborate with a team member. You want a tool that when you are not there, someone can log in from their own details or credentials and access the same tools that you are creating. That creates the flow, or creates a workflow that is continuous and work doesn't stop because an individual is not there.
Adobe Creative Cloud gives users access to more than 20 applications, including Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and Acrobat, through a subscription model designed to enhance teamwork and digital content creation.
So live here on News Tonight, we bring you Insight next. On Insight this evening, the evacuation of some 300 Ghanaians from South Africa today has been postponed after over 800 registered with the High Commission in Pretoria, seeking to be evacuated after a renewed xenophobic attack. This follows an ultimatum to other nationals and nations to vacate their country by June 30. The renewed attacks on foreign nationals targeting Ghanaian-owned businesses, Nigerians and other nations living are being harassed and assaulted, and access to essential services disrupted in some instances. However, the attacks have escalated as South Africans have warned other nations to vacate their country by June 30. Speaking on the floor of Parliament a while ago, Deputy Minority Leader and Asokwa MP Patricia Appiah demanded the Foreign Affairs Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa be summoned to brief the House on the ongoing evacuation process.
The President approved the evacuation of 300 Ghanaians. These were the right steps. But, Mr. Speaker, several of them came somewhat belatedly. The attacks began in late April. Ghanaians were being harassed, displaced, and assaulted. A prompter and more forceful initial response was warranted and expected. Ghana must now build a coalition of African states before June 24th AU summit. If we arrive without allies, South Africa's diplomatic machinery will outmaneuver us and reduce this to migration management conversation. The minister must brief this House on his coalition strategy before the date.
Stay on this issue. Associate Professor at the University of Ghana's International Affairs and Diplomacy Department, Daniel Dramani Kipo Sun Yezi, joins me now via Zoom for more on this issue. Good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us here on News Tonight. Now, as you are aware, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has now deferred this evacuation of Ghanaians living in South Africa citing logistical and legal processes. From where you sit and a diplomatic standpoint, what does this delay signal about the severity and difficulty of this process?
Thank you very much, and thanks to the cherished viewers and listeners. I think the first point of it is that government, certainly we should commend government for taking a very swift measures to evacuate our dear Ghanaians who are caught up with the xenophobic attack in South Africa. And it is a hope that these people will find themselves in Ghana very soon. It is also unfortunate that the ministry has also indicated some challenges through the sector minister, Honorable Samuel Okudzeto, about logistic constraints and other form of administrative processes, legal processes that have to be settled. We all appreciate that. Sometimes it is very difficult to leave a country promptly. But that notwithstanding, I believe that we have a very competent High Commissioner based in South Africa, and the Ghanaian High Commission is doing everything with the South African counterparts to be able to resolve some of these logistics and legal and administrative processes that have to be cleared so that we will have our citizens back. I'm sure that government should be able to work around these things and get them resolved. It is a hope that our Ghanaian citizens who are there will return home safely. And I'm sure government will work it out pretty soon.
Very well. Now, you do know, in spite of having commended the government, that the numbers being recorded now are far more above the initial estimates, initially around 300, and as it stands, about 800 Ghanaians reportedly registered for this evacuation process. Now, what does this say about the extent and the level of fear and insecurity among Ghanaians and other African nationals in South Africa?
The numbers will certainly tell us this reality in South Africa, that all is not well with Africans living in a very important country in South Africa. Initially, with government envisaged about 300 people will be evacuated. Unfortunately, within some few days, the Ghana's High Commission has recorded up to 800, and even currently we have 800 plus who are expressing their interest and have notified the Ghanaian authority through our High Commission in Pretoria that they are willing to return home. It's a clear indication that life is not good in South Africa. The xenophobic attack is real. Citizen Africans are threat, Ghanaians' lives are threat, and the South Africans are not willing to see Africans on their land. That is certainly very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate that an African state, that African leaders fought very hard for South Africa to be liberated, only for a few years, not a decade, that the same South Africa has turned their anger on African migrants and not other migrants. That is quite very strange. But that notwithstanding, I think it is appropriate. Government of Ghana has taken the appropriate step to bring them back, and that is the priority that we have. We also hope that other countries will possibly take the same measures so that we will leave South Africa for them and see the way out. Certainly, they have asked Africans to leave. And it's strange that Asian and other country nationals are not a priority, but Africans, and that is quite, it's against African Union. The dream to have a Pan-Africanist perspective that we have is the other way down we are seeing it. A united continent is now moving in an opposite direction, and South Africa is a very important member on our continent.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, they are dragging us backward. But we will leave them because that is what they have decided. Ghana's priority is to get our citizens back home. And I'm sure that is what we are looking forward.
Right.
And I think government will do all the, will take appropriate measures, legal, administrative, and all the logistic challenges. We will be able to work with the host country, South Africa, so that we'll have our citizens return home safely and get resettled in their Ghana. That's what we are looking for.
Certainly. Now, I'm going to ask you about the package that is being offered to Ghanaians, of course, who are being evacuated. But before we get there, you describe this issue as very concerning, it's rather troubling. On one hand, we're preaching African unity, and on the other hand, we're seeing such extreme cases of xenophobia. Why do you think that it's so that a country, even as developed, really, as South Africa, has found it difficult to deal with this issue of xenophobia for quite some time? And what do we do as Africans to deal with it and achieve this united Africa that we have all been preaching?
I believe that South Africans got it wrong. And it could be that maybe it depends on how. I could also sometimes I think it could be some political maneuverings here and there. Maybe some other political parties might have taken it that we need to do this to be able to get power. Otherwise, it's very unfortunate. I don't think that the challenges of South Africa should be associated to only African migrants. Africans are there and they are making very significant contribution to the South African economy. So it is just unfortunate to think that, it is Nigerians that are making us not to get jobs. It is Ghanaians that are making us not to get, it is Zimbabwe. That is quite unfortunate. That is far from the reality. And I believe that South Africans will soon understand whether Africans are their problems when the reality dawn on them. They just need to do what is right and not sit aloof and thinking that it's migrants that are there. South African citizens themselves have not taken advantage of the educational facilities there to upgrade themselves. These are real challenges that at the right time they will begin to see that it is just not African migrants that are making life unbearable in South Africa, but the citizens will have to watch themselves and take appropriate steps. It is also unfortunate that South African citizens have taken the law into their own hands to make themselves border control officers and immigration officers and doing all those things. And I believe that the political leadership, ANC, because of the dwindling power support, they find it very difficult to whip the citizens. But I believe that if South African government will set up, they should be able to control and put the citizens in order. We, at the moment, our priority is to get our people out of South Africa. And I think government is certainly have taken the right decision, and we're hoping that they'll come home. It's very, very unfortunate. Continental unity is not seeing the same thing. And I believe the African Union must take this matter up. Not just Ghana as a lone ranger. African Union must take it up and speak to South Africa that their actions are condemnable actions, and they must stop that for the good of the continent.
Right. Now, very briefly, in rounding up, we've had the government talk about some packages for them once they are evacuated, financial packages, some reintegration allowances, even some psychological engagement as well, and job support for the evacuees. What do you make of the package that is being offered to them, and how beneficial would you say it's likely to be?
Yes, I think that is a very good thing that we have heard that. It is also, I'm sure, the package may be one of the factors that might have triggered the increasing number of people trying to come in. Certainly, when you live in a different country, some of them will be asking, if I come home and I get to Accra, how will I be able to get to my village? And that might be the reason why some may be reluctant to report at our High Commission. And other aspect will be, even when we get home, better transport, how are we going to settle? So if government is assuring them that we will bring you and we'll get you some seed money, at least something small to start with, and how we'll be able to put you to resettle and possibly take their database, integrate into maybe our Ministry of Labor and other civil society group and other employers to be able to see how government will facilitate working with other partners that these returnees will be able to get themselves, get work, get started. And I think this package could be one of the motivating factors for them to go. And I think that is very good. At least not just coming home with empty hands, but assuring them that you will be settled in a proper, in a dignified manner. I think that is also a very commendable one. We are just hoping that they will be able to come home, and whatever government has for them, other groups may also express interest so that we will be able to support these Ghanaian citizens who have returned so that life become better. Home, sweet home. And Ghana is the best place. So government and all other actors should team up, work hand in hand so that we will give these returnees the best support as when they return to Ghana.
Certainly. We would like to thank you so much for your time this evening. Daniel Dramani Kipo-Sun Yezi, Associate Professor at the University of Ghana International Affairs and Diplomacy Department. So live on News Tonight and on Insight, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin has cautioned members of the House to conduct themselves in a manner that is above reproach, stressing that lawmakers are not beyond the reach of the law. Addressing Parliament as the House resumed sitting, Speaker Bagbin clarified that security agencies do not require his permission to invite or arrest MPs, but are only expected to formally notify his office. Meanwhile, both the majority and minority sides exchanged differing views on issues of national concern, including alleged political intolerance, judicial independence, and the proposed anti-LGBTQ legislation.
Legislature has resumed for the second meeting of the second session of the 9th Parliament, with lawmakers expected to deliberate on several major bills and policy reforms across key sectors of the economy. As proceedings opened on Thursday, March 21, 2026, leaders on both sides of the House outlined their priorities and concerns. The minority raised concerns about political intolerance and the use of state institutions against critics.
Members and supporters of the MPP were arrested and detained for violence, not for financial crime, but for speech, for exercising the right to free expression that Article 21 of our Constitution guarantees to every Ghanaian. A party organizer was seized by masked, heavily armed CID and BNI officers for posting a Facebook image of the president with the caption, "Dumso is back." That is what it took to bring the full apparatus of state security to a citizen's door.
The majority side, however, rejected the claims and instead expressed support for the country's judicial institutions.
We must equally acknowledge that public confidence and trust in governance is increasingly being measured not by speeches, but rather by tangible improvements in the living conditions of the people we serve. To this end, Ghanaians expect accountability, transparency, and responsive leadership. They expect Parliament to rise above partisan divisions whenever the need arises and rally around the desire to improve their lives and livelihood. I want to assure the judiciary that we on this side of the House have their backs covered.
Speaker Alban Bagbin, in his address to the House following Parliament's Easter recess, touched on the arrest of Asante Achem North MP Kwame Ohene-Frempong, assuring lawmakers that efforts are ongoing to ensure due process and justice in the matter. He warned MPs to conduct themselves in a manner that reflects the trust of the people.
As we've been told, it's regrettable that one of the members of this House is alleged to be on the wrong side of the law. You've already been given the details. What I can add is that Parliament is working with government to ensure justice is done in this matter. I will in due course keep the House updated with developments in the matter. Meanwhile, permit me on your behalf to convey the empathy of the House to members of his family and his constituents for this unfortunate development, and to call on them to exercise restraint, for we are with them and we are doing everything to make sure that he is accorded all the due respect, dignity, and the opportunities available to all of us in international law.
While the minority urged government to ensure the MPs receive adequate legal representation, the majority appealed to the public to avoid prejudicial commentary.
This arrest has inflicted deeply damaging blow to Ghana's international reputation. Our country's name has been dragged through European headlines in a manner that reflects poorly on this Parliament and this nation.
I urge Ghanaians to be circumspect in their comments regarding this matter, as all accused persons are innocent until proven guilty.
Passion for technology.
Start off with agriculture, as government says it is committed to repositioning Ghana's cocoa sector to retain more value locally while ensuring the long-term sustainability of the industry. Deputy Finance Minister Thomas Ampem Nyako says resilience in the cocoa sector cannot rest solely on farmers, stressing the need for stronger global partnerships to shape a sustainable future for cocoa-producing countries. He made the remarks at the official announcement of Ghana as host of the 2027 partnership meetings of the World Cocoa Foundation.
2027 partnership meeting of the World Cocoa Foundation will be held in Accra from March 16 to 18 under the theme From Origin to Global Resilience. The event will focus on the role of cocoa-producing countries and farming communities in strengthening the resilience and sustainability of the global cocoa economy. Country Director of the World Cocoa Foundation for Ghana and Nigeria, Dr. Mauli Kofi, says Ghana's selection as host reflects growing recognition of the country's strategic role in the global cocoa value chain. According to him, coordinated action among governments, industry players, and development partners remains critical to reducing risks confronting the sector.
Choosing Ghana reflects a shared commitment to the future of cocoa, and most importantly, the millions of farming families whose dedication sustains the global cocoa economy. The future of cocoa requires attractive farm economics, higher productivity, improved market opportunities, access to finance, diversified incomes, and stronger incentives that make cocoa farming a worthwhile and long-term enterprise. The cost of inaction would far exceed the cost of intervention.
Chief Executive of the Ghana Cocoa Board, Dr. Randy Abe, expressed optimism that the partnership meeting would move discussions beyond rhetoric towards concrete action for the sustainability of the cocoa industry.
The world loves chocolate, but the system that delivers it is under immense strain. Our farmers are the backbone of this multi-billion-dollar industry, yet many still struggle to earn a living income as a result of the persistent low prices. We must change this narrative. The quest for a financially viable industry cannot and should not be the sole burden of producing countries. At the 2027 partnership meeting, Cocoa Board will call on our international partners, chocolate manufacturers, and global buyers to step up.
Deputy Finance Minister Thomas Ampem Nyako says government remains focused on resetting the cocoa sector to ensure Ghana derives greater value from its cocoa resources while improving the livelihoods of farmers. He described the theme for the partnership meeting as timely as Ghana pursues reforms aimed at resetting the sector and ensuring its long-term survival.
The future of cocoa will depend on resilience, fairness, sustainability, and shared responsibility across the entire value chain. Against this backdrop, the theme From Origin to Global Resilience could not be more timely or more relevant. We are determined to move beyond exporting raw beans towards building greater local processing capacity and retaining more value within producing countries. Because producing countries must not remain at the bottom of the value chain while carrying the greatest production risk.
The 2027 World Cocoa Foundation Partnership Meeting is expected to attract global stakeholders across the cocoa value chain to discuss the future of sustainable cocoa production, trade, and rural development.
Some more business news this evening. The governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Johnson Isiema, says non-performing loans in the banking sector are expected to decline further as new regulatory measures and supervisory guidelines begin to take effect. Speaking at the 130th Monetary Policy Committee meeting, Dr. Esiema also disclosed that the committee has decided to amend the dynamic cash reserve ratio to a uniform ratio of 20% to be maintained in domestic currency effective June 4, 2026.
Non-performing loan or NPL ratio also declined to 18% from 23.6% over the same comparative period. And this reflected a rebound in bank credits and reduction in the stock of NPLs. Nonetheless, elevated credit risk remains a key concern and requires banks strict adherence to the regulatory guidelines aimed at reducing non-performing loans in the industry. The external sector remained resilient despite the early impact of heightened geopolitical tensions. The committee took yet an additional measure. The committee decided to amend the dynamic cash reserve ratio to a uniform ratio of 20%, maintained in the domestic currency effective June 4.
Access to banking services remains a major challenge for many people, particularly individuals and small businesses in underserved communities who often travel long distances just to carry out basic financial transactions. It's against this backdrop that Consolidated Bank Ghana has launched its agency banking initiative, dubbed Sika Agents, aimed at bringing banking services closer to customers and promoting financial inclusion across the country. Sena Ajato was there and reports.
Consolidated Bank Ghana has officially launched its agency banking initiative known as Sika Agent as part of efforts to improve accessibility and convenience within the banking sector. Under the initiative, customers will be able to perform basic banking transactions through registered agents across various communities without necessarily visiting a banking hall. Speaking at the launch, Deputy Managing Director of CBG, Sheila Azuntaba, noted that the initiative will help address challenges customers face in accessing banking services in areas with limited banking infrastructure.
Today marks a significant step in CBG's journey towards expanding access to banking services and bringing convenient, secure, reliable banking closer to individuals, businesses, and especially communities across the country. As a bank, our commitment to innovation and financial inclusion means that we recognize that many customers require banking services daily. Therefore, this product is aimed at ensuring that more people across the country can access extremely well-thought, well-curated products and services within their communities through all our approved agents.
Managing Director of CBG, Naomi Walali-Kwete, also emphasized the importance of innovation and inclusive banking in expanding financial access and supporting economic growth.
We believe that we need to serve the unserved communities, and agency banking is one of the ways we can do that. We have said that as we speak today, we have onboarded about 168 agents, and we hope to do by 1,000 by the end of the year. And in a 3-year space, we want to do about 8,000. The main issue is simple: to have banking closer to you. Don't let banking, a distance or location, be a hindrance for you to do banking. We want to include everyone.
Management says the Sika Agent platform will offer services including cash deposits and withdrawals, money transfers, and other essential banking transactions as the bank works to deepen financial inclusion nationwide.
You can access 5 services. You can do your deposits, you can do your withdrawals, you can do interbank transfers, that is, move monies from your account to any other bank in the country, and you can also open a new account with us. The good thing for CBG, we are not the first. We have looked at the problems, we've looked at the gaps, and we have closed all. We can assure you that our platform is secured, is safe, and easy to use.
The introduction of the CBG Sika Agent platform, according to management, forms part of broader efforts to make banking services more accessible, convenient, and inclusive for individuals and businesses across the country.
Some more business news. Africa's intra-continental trade reached an all-time high of $220 billion in 2024, marking a 12.5% increase from the previous year. This growth reflects the accelerating momentum of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, despite mounting global economic headwinds. The Secretary General of the AfCFTA Secretariat, Wamkele Mene, announced this milestone on Monday during the opening of the Biashara Africa 2026 conference in Lomé. He stated that the achievement demonstrates how Africa's long-standing vision for economic integration is now yielding tangible outcomes. Calvin Powell reports.
For decades, intra-African trade has remained disproportionately low compared to the volume of trade between African countries and the rest of the world, despite the continent constituting the largest single market globally. Stakeholders attribute this disparity to structural impediments, including high tariffs, logistical constraints, and customs delays at numerous border crossings across the continent. Since its establishment in 2018, the African Continental Free Trade Area has intensified efforts to eliminate these barriers through its institutional framework, aiming to stimulate intra-African trade. In his opening address at the Biashara Africa 2026 Summit, Secretary General Wamkele Mene underscored the significant expansion of intra-African trade.
26 of these state parties have actively started trading under the rules of the AfCFTA, demonstrating that the rules of the AfCFTA are indeed relevant to the market that we wish to build. All of this has resulted in a record intra-Africa trade reaching $220 billion in the year 2024, a 12.5% increase from the year before, according to the Intra-Africa Trade Report of Afreximbank.
The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Jomoke Oduwole, in her address, deplored the persistent obstacles to the free movement of persons, goods, and services across the continent. She called for urgent reforms leveraging the AfCFTA protocols.
Two ECOWAS passport holders from Nigeria and Ghana, who had also happened to have European passports and traveled here from Europe yesterday, were not allowed to enter Togo with their national ECOWAS passports. They had to apply for and were given visas for 24 hours on their foreign passports. This is not a Togo problem. I led ease of doing business in Nigeria for 9 years, and these problems persist across the continent.
In a session dedicated to formulating measures to eliminate bottlenecks in the implementation of frameworks for a single African market, the managing director of Everything Bank, Dr. George Elombi, criticized the bureaucratic tendencies prevalent among civil servants across the continent.
I come from Cameroon, and I can tell you, sometimes the questions I get asked at the port of entry in Cameroon on a Cameroonian passport
interesting,
make me wonder whether they didn't issue the passport, and I have to ask the immigration official whether they didn't issue it. And so, but this is not at the level at the top, it's at the bottom. That's why I chose to speak to the civil servant. It's a gathering of business people, so it's not the place where you talk civil service.
Demonstrating its commitment to facilitating the free movement of persons, goods, and services under the AfCFTA protocols, Togo has granted immediate visa-free entry to all African nationals visiting the country. Calvin Powell's report for GH1 TV and Star FM.
And that's how we wrap up the business segments here on News Tonight. Do stay with us. We've got sports shortly.
The Business Brief was brought to you by CompuGhana, passion for technology.
And now it's time for sports. My name is Felix Dazi. Gaffer of the Black Starlets has spoken following Ghana's heartbreaking exit from the Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations, despite securing victory over South Africa to finish level on points and goal difference with Algeria. Per tournament regulations, a ballot was conducted after the match to decide which side advanced, with the North African nation progressing to the quarterfinals. The Gaffer explained the balloting procedure that ultimately ended Ghana's campaign.
When the ballot was, we were not picked first. You know, the ballot was done in such a way that the names of the two countries were written and put in the ballot bowls. So the match commissioners for our game against South Africa, and the match commissioner for the game for Algeria and then Senegal went there to pick for us. So when it was due, the match commissioner for Algeria and then South Africa was asked to pick first. And then when he picked, the board that he picked had the name of Algeria written in it, and that meant that they had qualified. And you know, in lotteries like this, you don't have control. I mean, it can go either way.
The Black Starlets are set to face the Ugandan Cubs in a crucial playoff for a place at the 2026 FIFA Under-17 World Cup in Qatar, after missing out on a quarterfinal berth at the ongoing Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations despite a spirited campaign in the group stage. Head coach of the Black Starlets has emphasized that the team is fully focused and prepared for the challenge ahead, and nothing that qualifying for the World Cup remains a major ambition for both players and technical staff, describing it as a dream every young footballer and coach aspires to achieve.
They are warming themselves up tournament, but then unfortunately we are out of the tournament, but then we have an opportunity to qualify to the World Cup. Very important because it gives the team the ticket to compete at the World Cup. I mean, and it is a dream of every player, every coach, everybody to be at the World Cup, whether it's at the youth level, whether it's at the senior most level. It is a dream of every player, every coach to be there. So the value, the weight that it carries is so high, so important, so significant that we are all ready and we are all poised to go extra miles to be able to work hard to achieve that slot.
All right, and we wish the Black Starlets the very best of luck. Also in Ghana, QNet, in collaboration with Manchester City, has organized a 3-day football training and scouting program at the Al Rayyan Football Park in Accra. There is more in this report.
The initiative, which is aimed at identifying and developing young football talents in Ghana between the ages of 9 and 11, with selected players potentially earning an opportunity to join Manchester City's academy in England. Chief Network Development Officer of QNet, Trevor Kuna, expressed excitement about the initiative and praised the level of talent displayed by the children. He emphasized the importance of creating opportunities and providing young Ghanaian footballers with proper training and football education.
Very exciting to step on that pitch and see the energy from the kids. Quite surprisingly, I mean, these are young kids. These are like between 8 and 11, and they've got some incredible talent. And I think what's incredible is that talent is now being tapped into. The city coaches that are here are teaching them how to upskill, upgrade their whatever moves in terms of offense, defense, protecting the ball, shooting, passing, everything that represents world-class football. So I think this is an exciting opportunity for these kids, and we look forward to seeing what happens and the transformation that's going to happen to them over the next 3 days. Over the years, we looked at how can we activate this partnership in communities, because with QNet, it's very important for us, not just as an international global network marketing, direct selling business, but to also give back to the community where it matters the most. And Accra, Ghana is a very special market for us because it's basically the gateway for Africa when it comes to our business. And so this partnership with Citi, we looked at opportunities on how to capitalize on the partnership and give opportunity to children, whether it's in Nigeria or in Ghana, access to world-class football and access to learning more about the game and making sure that we're making a difference not only in people's lives with our business, but also making a difference in the lives of children who would have probably never had access to this type of level of coaching and skill development.
Former Ghana international Samuel Inkum shared his excitement about the project and explained why he chose to support the initiative.
I'm so happy, very, very happy, because this is the future of Ghana.
All right, that's it for Sports Brief. News still continues right here on GH1.
The sports news there, and we thank you for making time to watch News Tonight this evening. As always, you've got more news on our website, starfm.com.gh. It was produced by Emmanuel Ejabing and Stella.